Light it.
We welcome you back to the Triple Option, presented by Wendy's, Rob Stone, Urban Meyer, and Coach 12 Gauge in the house right now. Joining us, the great Cardale Jones, the winning quarterback of the 2014 Ohio State National Championship team. Thanks for joining us, man. Happy New Year. You're still on a buzz from that trip to Pasadena, aren't you, my friend?
As you guys see, first and foremost, Happy New Year, Rob. Coach Meyer, always a pleasure to see you guys. And I'm still on cloud nine after watching an unbelievable performance on both sides of the ball for the Buckeyes. So I'm feeling pretty good about our chances.
Cardale, so good to see you, my man. And one of the great, I keep telling people that they ought to build a statue. I know we got Archie. What you did, the transformation I saw of you as a player, you've always had the talent, but the focus and the leadership and the way that team rallied around you. You know, I'm biased, but that was arguably the best three-game run in the history, certainly of Ohio State. They might top it after this. If they go on this 3 or 4 game run, they could top it. Yeah. But what you did against taking over the helm in the second half or the fourth quarter against Wolverines, then you had Wisconsin, Alabama, and then the way you played against Oregon was phenomenal. So the new 12-team playoff, you know, are you a fan? Are you not a fan? Are you? And then there's two questions. I want you to answer this. Is the SEC run over?
You know what?
The Big Ten passed them.
You know what? That's hard. I think when you think about the quality of teams, you think about the number of teams stacking up versus Big Ten versus the SEC. I think the SEC still have us notched just a little bit, but if I'm taking the top 4 teams versus the top 4 teams in the SEC any day of the week. But I think the SEC as a conference is a little bit deeper when you say maybe top 6 to 7 teams than the Big Ten. But the top dogs are clearly in the Big Ten. And I think we saw it last 2 days ago in the Rose Bowl with Ohio State and Oregon, putting on an unbelievable showdown and then being in the top 4. We got 2 teams out of the Big Ten, and I guess Notre Dame is like our stepbrothers in the Big Ten, so I count them as a Big Ten team as well. But the 12-team playoff is, you know, I'm a fan of it. I think the seeding is the issue. I love the 12 teams that extend our season. It gives more teams an opportunity to be in that playoffs and really have a chance to bring home that trophy. But the seeding, I think, is a little flawed. And you look at teams like Oregon, who got, Oregon and even Boise as well, who got some tough seedings and a tough route to get to the ultimate goal. But I love having 12 teams in.
If you had to do like Jeremiah Smith to throw it to, what would your conversations to the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, and your head coach be at this point?
Hey, where will he be? Over there somewhere? Okay, I'll throw it over there. It would be that simple. It'd be that simple. You just put it in a guy like that. You put it in his area. You don't have to be as unfortunately you don't have to be as fortunately you don't have to be as accurate. Even sometimes where you see the quarterback may be a little bit late, a half a step because he had to move in the pocket. He just give that guy a chance, and he usually making plays. I go back to the second quarter of the game versus Oregon in the Rose Bowl where Will made some things happen, and the defensive back, it was a high-low read. The defensive back thought he baited Will into throwing the high corner, and Jeremiah Smith went up over both of them. And the defensive back was in such great position. He just knew he made a great play. Didn't even see if Jeremiah Smith caught the ball or not, but he get up doing this. Like, yeah, I stopped him. And he looked up Jeremiah Smith doing this, like, first down. That's the type of comfortability that Will in this offense and Chip Kelly and Ryan Day has in this young, unbelievable player.
Having a player like that, Cardale, when we had Mike Thomas, by the end of his career, became that kind of a player. He became that guy that if you singled up Mike, we gave, I remember distinctly that we would have a run play called. However, if you got single coverage, go up top with them. And we did. We threw one downfield against the Wolverines. I can't remember what year that was. But I can imagine, I've not talked to Coach Day or Coach Kelly about this, but I imagine that's just built in the offense. And you've been a part of offenses. If you are defending a player like that, that not only opens up, that obviously you get single coverage, but the entire defense knows where number 4 is. That's going to open up other things, and I'm starting to see other things open up with the Ohio State offense because Jeremiah Smith has always been great. He's taken it to a next level. Yeah. So talk to the viewers a little bit about, as a quarterback, when you have a player like that, it opens up other things, not just obviously Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, it opened up so many different things, and I totally agree with you. That comparison of Mike Thomas when he got into that late year 2, year 3 of his career, and so forth, where he became a guy that just put it in his area. And Jeremiah Smith is clearly that guy right now. And I look at last year with Marvin Harrison Jr. when he had games where people thought like he was shut down or he was quiet. No, he forces you. And Jeremiah Smith is already doing this at a very young age and part of his career. He forces you to have so much attention on him where it's looked like he have no impact on his game plan, but it's opened up so much stuff in the running game or other guys getting an opportunity to get open, because that's the unique part about Ohio State. They got potentially 2, 3, maybe even 4 first-round receivers in that room right now. So when you start to focus more in detail on Jeremiah Smith, we saw Mekabuka run down the middle of the field a few times and get loose, and we saw some plays by Carnell Tate in the passing game as well. And then you focus so much on this guy, you forget about the 2 great running backs who's going to also put a lot of pressure on your defense. So when you have a guy like that, it's really not so much about game planning for him, because he's going to get his touches, and you see everything they do with him from the reverses to the bringing him in behind the line of scrimmage and throwing him the ball out the backfield. He's just a player that's hard to defend for.
Let's talk about the lunatic fringe in Columbus and nationwide, that Ohio State Buckeye fan base that, frankly, a lot of programs wish they had, right?
Yeah.
And after the Rose Bowl game, Cardale, you sent out a note. The apologies from the fake Buckeye fans need to be just as loud as the hate that they sent out. Describe to me what it's like living in Columbus, being the quarterback, and what exactly is going on with that lunatic fringe, these passionate fans right now with the Ohio State.
Yeah, I would call them more passionate, and I think Ohio State has put themselves in a position traditionally, and Coach Meyer can attest for this, that the expectation is like none other around, college football. And, I will argue being a head coach at Ohio State and then the quarterback is probably the second and third most powerful positions in the whole state behind the governor when it comes to just notoriety and then the effect that you can have on other people with your performance.
Who's the governor of Ohio right now?
Governor DeWine.
Oh, all right. So you got that. You got that answer fast.
But if I don't know if Ohio State pull this thing off in the next, 2.5, 3 weeks, it may be Governor Day. So, but when you look at that, I mean, I think it's all just based off the tradition-rich history we have here of not just winning, of togetherness, and then the expectations is extremely high here. And I think Ryan and his whole team is kind of, got the back end of that, because they're replacing, like we say all the time, you don't want to be a guy replacing a guy. So when you're replacing a guy who won a national championship and 7-0 versus a team up north and all those things, people expect you to pick up that sword and keep fighting. People expect you to have no drop off in performance or anything like that. You look at the quarterback transition, and I remember when the Buckeye fans was calling for C.J. Stroud's job after his first game versus Minnesota, and this guy go on to be a top 2 pick, and same for Justin, and same for Dwayne, and things like that. So we've been spoiled with great coaches and great players, where we want to see a 59-0 game every game, and we know that's not the reality of college sports, because you have a lot of great teams around college football, and we all fighting for the same thing.
Look at you bringing up a 59-0 scoreline. I don't know, maybe a Big Ten championship game versus Wisconsin in a certain season with a certain quarterback at the helm.
So I got you, Cardale. So I talked to the viewer about, because only a small handful of people that have ever walked the planet can explain to what it feels like when you walk into one of those grand stages. I remember the first time I walked into a national championship environment was in 2006 in the Fiesta Bowl. And I remember, I normally don't even really pay attention. I caught myself not hyperventilating, but I kind of lost my breath when I walked in. I was like, holy, we're here. It takes your, it did. And I remember, here I am with Cardale Jones. First of all, the first one is the Big Ten championship, and that is a great stage. Mm-hmm. But you know what really took my breath away? Is the Louisiana Superdome down there. When me and you walked in that, and we're playing the mighty Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're my quarterback, and I remember it was one of those moments that you have to really concentrate. And people might say you're nuts when I say this. I had to concentrate on breathing, on to keep my mind
Yeah,
focused because I grew up as a football fan. I'm like, wait a minute, we're really here.
this
Talk
is
to the
it.
viewer about a starting quarterback walking into the grand stage.
It's unbelievable, and it's hard to explain any other feeling other than the feelings you're trying to explain yourself. When the stadiums are amazing, the fan bases are passionate. Everything you have worked for is right in front of you. I mean, it's not a lot of times where we can say, "Okay, now finally." If I just complete this last task, I can grab the goal. I can literally just grab it.
Wow.
Usually we set goals so far away, it's hard to stay focused. And we talked about this a lot being a part of, the Buckeyes for 4 years. And I said a lot, like, we were so clear on the goal, but it's hard to stay clear on that goal when, it's January 14th and we don't play for another 9.5 months. And we're saying, hey guys, we got to get ready for next January 10th. You're like, okay, yeah, that's the goal. But I'm really going to, how close I'm going to get to this goal right now, February 13th on freaking St. Valentine's Day Massacre workout? Am I really getting into that goal? So walking into those stadiums and that environment, you're like, holy crap, like it's right here. It's right across this line. It's like in 60 minutes, I'm either going to achieve that goal or I'm going to come up a little short. And all of those emotions come into play. All of that feeling of like, man, look at all these things I've done to this point. And I don't think for me personally, winning a national championship was my greatest accomplishment as an individual player, because when we got on that stage, when we got in that moment, it was the journey. That's what I reflected on. I reflected on all the ups and downs. I reflected on all the lessons. It was like, and I don't want to sound so extreme here and intense, but people say like my life flashed before my eyes. My journey just flashed. Like it was almost at a point where I was like, you'll be a fool to let this thing slip away from everything you guys have put into this point to get to here. Now you're here. Finish the job.
Wow.
What similarities, what differences do you see from your team that won the last national title for Ohio State and this program that's sitting 2 wins away from doing it again?
Similarities, I think just the togetherness. I think just the selflessness is the biggest thing I see with this team. Usually, Jeremiah Smith, we've been talking about this guy, all show and pretty much for the second half of this season so far. And they have so many other great players who could easily be star caliber guys on other teams, but they play their roles. I mean, Carnell Tate, Brennan, and his Emeka Buka coming back for his final year. Like these guys could have 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 yards at other universities, but they here and they stay to ultimately achieve the goal. And I've been saying on record before the season even started, this is to me the most talented team on paper Ohio State has ever had. And they're going to go down as one of the most talented teams in college football, period. And clearly they got to put it all together to start to earn some of those accolades. And we're seeing when they do, I mean, no one I don't think can really compete with these guys on a high level. So I think when it comes to the selflessness and just that grit and that toughness, that's the things I see from our 2014 team with this team. Unfortunately for my 2014 team, love these guys to death, but I think this team is a lot more talented, you know, um, and hopefully they get it done here in the next few weeks.
One last question for me, Cardale, and as this, that Jeremiah Smith, if the draft was tomorrow, I think most people would say he's the number one overall pick, arguably the greatest player. I always compare Percy Harvin because he was the greatest player I've ever been around. Should he be able to leave? Or you got NIL now, you got transfer portal, and I'm going to give you my quick 2 cents and let you run on it because I'm really the problem. If they open that door, that's Pandora's box, and there's a lot of players that will get suckered into leaving early and give up
Mhm.
on an education, career, and development. Should Jeremiah Smith be able to leave now?
You know what? Because of everything you just mentioned with the education and development side of things, I would say no. Just because this is still, you going from playing with, kids for the most part, 12 months ago in high school, and say he's going to be ready in 16 months to play with grown men who feeding their family with this stuff. We haven't seen a Jeremiah Smith in college, and this is no knock on him because I think he's going to be extremely. I already said it. He's going to go down not just one of the best players and receivers of Ohio State history, but I think when we talk about best players and receivers in the whole NCAA, his name is mentioned. But it's some Jeremiah Smiths in it at the next level. You don't see it as much and as on dominant level because they're going against a Jeremiah Smith on the other side of the ball from them. So, but even with Jeremiah Smith, when he's going against other first round talented guys, he's going to have an opportunity to go against the Thorpe winner, here in about 8 days. He's still performing at a high level. But I think just he can continue, we can always continue to get better. I think it's still so many things that he can learn. I mean, when you talk about mature level, though, he's off the chart. When you talk about the playing level, he's off the chart. But you don't want to say, hey, I think off one small sample size of 1 year, what we've seen from him, that he should be able to play with the top players and the best players in the world. That's one thing people don't really understand. The NFL recruit all around the world, right? Not just in this country. So we're finding the best of the best. I still think the 3-year rule is kind of great for a lot of guys. But if he was my kid, I'm letting you know right now, I don't know if he's playing his 3rd year in college. I don't think he needed it. I think he pulled some type of Jamar Chase where, I know it was COVID year and LSU was going through some things his 3rd year before he was draft eligible. But we see it worked out for him and other guys who didn't play their 3rd year, just getting to that 3 years out of high school so they can be draft eligible.
Hey, Coach, your former QB's got the gift of gab, man. He's not bad at this little.
I got an idea, Cardale.
He's not bad chatting into this microphone thing, man. You might have a future in this, my friend. But part of this business over here, it's it's listening, it's talking, but it's also asking some questions. So every once in a while, we like to let our guests fire off a question at us. So you can ask me a question if you want, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be the guy in the other corner over there. So you get a question to fire at myself or Coach Meyer right now.
Oh, perfect. And I appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's always been great catching up with you guys. And yeah, I think I'm going to take Coach Meyer and put him in a hot seat a little bit here.
Let's go.
I think when you look at the coaching staff that you had at Ohio State, and you look at the coaching staff here at Ohio State now under Ryan Day and all the back and forth and all the chirping that they've been under a lot of scrutiny over the last 2 years when it came to recruiting and developing guys. What do you see the biggest difference between the staff you had versus the staff that Coach Day has assembled?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm trying to go back here. And I see an elite defensive coach. When they made the change, I see a defensive coaching staff that is excellent. Even when the offense at time has struggled, their defense has been really good. That's a good question. I'm trying to compare them. So we had Tom Herman and we had Luke Fickell and Chris Ash on defense. I thought Tom Herman, that was excellent. Especially, we go through Braxton, then JT, Barrett, then you. I think it's very similar. I think there's alignment. I have not been around the Woody as much just because I'm traveling so much. But the one thing that has always intrigued me about the great coaching staffs is not just coaching talent, it's the alignment from A to Z. And right now I'm seeing that at Ohio State. You got the one big blemish, and that's the one against the Wolverines where I was there. I think you were probably there too, and that did not compute what happened. I didn't see the energy on the sideline. I saw the offense line get pushed around, and then I see what's going on now. So whatever adjustments they made, I see very similar, to answer your question, between the 2014 and 2024 coaching staffs. And the number one thing I see is alignment.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. And I love the way that Ryan and his staff makes those adjustments. You can tell the staff is really good at self-scouting was something that you was big on. And that's a lot of similarities that came up from me and just how they operate and just how he put that ownership on those unit leaders to really get their guys to go. I hear that term when I'm around him a little bit, get your guys to go, get your guys to go. And it just put me back in that mindset of being, in the helmet at the shoe or over at the Woody when getting ready for practice. So
God, I love talking to Cardale, man. You should get your own podcast, Cardale.
We'll see, man. We shall see, man. I don't know if I'll be good as you guys, but we shall see.
You're going to be just fine, my friend. We're not worried about you. We every time we come to Columbus with Big Noon Kickoff, you're like one of the first people we call. Get them on over there, man. Bring 12 gauge on over here. Let's enjoy the conversation. Hey, man, Happy New Year. Glad you enjoyed your trip to Pasadena. I'm sure you're booking that flight to Big D right now as the Buckeyes move on to the national playoff semifinal showdown against Texas. He's Cardale Jones. Thanks for joining us, brother. Nice to talk to you again, as always.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Light it.